I know that some of you can relate to my feeling here when Dale first asked me to do this presentation. My first thoughts in this state were sort of like, oh God, I'm not going to have anything interesting to say, and then probably nobody's going to care anyway, which is really illustrative of that deep little sad voice inside of me that says, I don't matter. On the other hand, there's a really strong part of me that loves being on stage, gets a kick out of being in the limelight, sharing playfully, exploring thoughts and ideas with people. It's really kind of cool to be up here. This part, frankly, needs a lot more practice and a lot of encouragement, but she's kind of the best part of me. So sticking with this example a little while longer, when I move into procrastination, I started feeling a lot of tension. And I said to myself, oh God, it's a long ways off. Don't worry about it. Take your time. You'll get to the presentation. Just chill out and relax a little bit. So when I move into procrastination, I can go a couple of ways. I can get really busy, and suddenly everything starts calling for my attention. Walking through my living room is a landmine of distractions. Suddenly I've got to clean the closet, and I've got to organize my CDs, and I've got to find that book I was thinking about the other day. It's crazy. The next part, the other way it can go, is I can sort of veg out. Back when I was a smoker, I would start feeling tense. I'd go out on the porch and smoke a cigarette, or maybe 5, and contemplate the universe. Nowadays, it's more likely the seductions of Netflix, where, if you don't know, they have this cool little feature of the next episode will just queue right up for you after you've finished watching it. It's great. Visual reminders, deadlines, a good friend kicking me in the pants, lists I make for myself. These are all strategies that help pull me back from the abyss of inertia, get me motivated, moving again. Otherwise, I can kind of forget my priorities. Another thing that gets me motivated is people and their needs. I really like people. I like helping people. And I love collaborating to solve problems, sharing ideas, just being playful. Everyone has a special gift, and it's important, and I love supporting that in people. One of my gifts is the ability to see multiple points of view. Everyone has a different perspective on life that makes them unique and interesting. I can usually find something of truth and value in most any viewpoint, and this really helps me to be non-judgmental and accepting of people. Because I tend to be very easygoing and agreeable and can comfortably go along with the crowd, if I'm not careful, I'll tend to hold back on my thoughts and preferences and give everybody else the forefront. Then I can become downright invisible. When I start ruminating and feeling resentful, then I know it's time for me to start speaking up. But being assertive often feels really risky to me because I value peace and harmony. When you take a stand, you open yourself up to conflict, or at least disagreement. When I'm feeling secure, I can be very assertive, and I will tend to state my opinions in a really direct way. I'm always open for others to have their opinion, though. I really dislike upsetting people and getting into arguments, so I try really hard not to. It takes a lot to get me angry. Not surprisingly, though, some of the things that make me angry are being taken for granted, being ignored, people not doing their fair share, and selfishness. Now, like a lot of things, when you avoid something out of fear, it tends to get bigger than life. So when I'm putting off dealing with an issue because I'm avoiding conflict, it can start to look like this inside. Very primal fight or flight, not really in my own rational control. I can burst out in anger or kind of go silent. I'm also tempted to ignore my problems, or at least minimize them. I've also been known to have some good skills with passive aggression. I can also be quite stubborn if people are trying to push me to do something I don't want to do. And I probably won't be upfront about that. Now, another way that I masterfully avoid conflict is to go all up in my head and start examining everything as an intellectual exercise, looking at all angles and points of view, which, when you think about it, is another way to procrastinate and avoid making a decision. Action requires a direction, but which is the right way to go? I spend a lot of time trying to find a course of action that's fair and right for everyone. Often it's hard for me to figure out what's really my choice and what I'm accommodating for others. Usually, I can find out what I don't want first and then arrive at what I do want later. Making decisions, though, is more effortless and intuitive when I remember that my feelings and needs count just as much as everyone else's. It's really helpful when people ask me what my thoughts and feelings are and acknowledge their importance. I have to work hard to keep my feelings as important as everyone else's. Staying grounded in my body is really essential for me to stay connected to my intuition, and I make my best decisions from my gut. So for me, having a consistent physical form of discipline, exercise like yoga or martial arts, is the best way for me to stay kind of plugged into myself and keep my head and heart talking. Now, my favorite artist, one of them, is Andy Goldsworthy, who uses natural elements to create beautiful art installations that are then left to kind of naturally decay and break apart. I really relate to the life and death nature or the ebb and flow of his work. I also have a strong value towards cooperation and working together for a common goal. A happy life to me is being in connection. My truest sense of self comes from being at one with my experience. It's a really peaceful, deeply spiritually and feeling that has no ego, no striving behind it, just a positive worldview. Everything's happening as it should. And finally, I believe we are all equally important and have a responsibility to grow, challenge, and stretch ourselves, to tap into the creative juice of the universe, to give back the best of ourselves, to help each other, and to create a world where joy and peace prevail.